everybody. I thought I'd share with you a little something I discovered with my Cajon, playing simple drum set grooves with just a shaker. I have here one of those LP shakers you can take apart into two shakers, which is kind of nice. Gives you a different dynamics range, you know. Have the two together, or just the one shaker, a little softer. And I'm using a bass drum pedal and playing it with my heel rather than having to invest in one of those cable operated pedals that you would play, you know, and have the remote cable come over. You can actually use just a regular bass drum pedal and put it right up against your Cajon. And you can see it's kind of dark, but you know, there's the Cajon. And I put a little, just this is an old sock, and I just put that right at the base of the Cajon, so the pedal clamp won't, you know, you won't have metal on wood wearing that down. It just keeps it from scratching the Cajon. And I actually discovered that it's not too difficult to play bass drum parts with your heel. And of course you want to get one of these little beaters. I think Gibraltar makes this. I'm not sure, but they're not too hard to find. It's a Cajon beater. This one looks like a little tennis ball, and it's nice and soft. Of course, you don't want to use a regular beater on a Cajon because you'll destroy it in a matter of seconds. You want a nice, soft, you know, tennis ball beater. So there is a little bit of a learning curve in just getting comfortable with that, but it's not that big a deal if you can play bass drum in the traditional method. And you notice here, I'm using my left foot, which is kind of nice. I kind of just like to switch it up, and that allows me to get this angle. But you could use your right foot and play, you know, that as your snare sound. But if I move in this angle, then it frees up this part of the Cajon, and I get a little more of an aggressive sound for my snare sound. So I think the easiest place to start with these kind of grooves is just first, hopefully you know how to play a shaker, because there is a little bit of technique involved in just getting your basic, you know, shaker sound, 16 notes where you get that shake. So that's a good place to start, just with 8-note pattern on the bass drum while playing this kind of pedestrian shaker pattern. That was the first shaker pattern I learned, was just, you know, getting that wrist motion, kind of wrist and arm working together. You start with 1 and 3 on the bass drum, 2 and 4 on the Cajon snare with that shaker pattern. And then adding 16-note patterns, once you get used to this heel motion, it's not that hard. It's just a little bit of a learning curve, getting used to the shaker motion and that 16-note bass drum pattern. And it's pretty effective. You can play a lot of grooves this way, I've found out. And really, the hardest thing, really, I don't need to play bass drum, you know, fast doubles, most pop music. And most grooves, you know, that's more of an effect and not really necessary. You can get a lot done just with, you know, that pattern. And so maybe the next thing you might want to try is adding some 16-note anticipations. You know, what Larry London from Nashville referred to as the 3-legged dog groove. This, and you know, the what's going on groove, or, you know, this popular groove where you got the push on at the end of 2, like on 1 and then 2. And then from there, you maybe add a couple more 16-note pushes in different places, maybe something like. Now that takes a little more work, but not too much of a learning curve. Getting 2/16 notes in a row, like that typical R&B bump kind of thing, like. Maybe a little faster. So that's a good start right there. And then you can get a lot of grooves happening with that, shaker, bass drum pedal, and a cajon. And let's talk about a couple other grooves, get a little more interesting. Once you get the double thing happening, maybe you can try like a samba pattern. And then, really, there's tons of possibilities. If you wanted to get like a straight eighth note, then you would just use that down motion with the shaker instead of trying to get that circular motion, like. You can combine that with 16 notes. The hardest one that I found in messing with this, one of the hardest ones is trying to get a shuffle groove happening, because that's just weird. You got this it's kind of an over the bar line thing. So it cycles around, because I haven't really figured out how to play. Kind of do that. I guess I'm kind of cheating it, but it works. So let me put this together in my head and see if I can get a shuffle happening. It's simple. So that hopefully give you all a good start messing around with this. I just was goofing one day, and things being what they are, plenty of time to be goofing. So hopefully that gave you some idea, gave you some inspiration. It's a cheap fix, you know. Just if you're a drummer, you probably got these things lying around. Get yourself a cajon and mess around with that, and you know, get yourself a cheap shaker and have some fun.